Breaking Bad is a show where death is practically a co-star. From cartel shootouts to explosive nursing homes, this series never wastes a kill. Every death comes with urgency, motive, and consequences that shake up the story in ways you never see coming. So in this video, we're diving into every single death in Breaking Bad, why it happened, and how their death shifted the story like a domino effect. First up, Emilio Koyama. Emilio was a hot-headed, low-level meth distributor with a short fuse and even shorter thinking skills. He was Jesse Pinkman's childhood buddy, his original meth cooking partner. Emilio is arrested during a raid on a house in which the DEA is looking for a meth supplier who goes by the name Cap'n Cook, which was Jesse Pinkman's nickname at the time. Emilio gets bailed out and immediately assumes Jesse was the one snitching on him. His response was to get his cousin, Crazy 8, to help him force Jesse to take them to meet Jesse's mysterious new partner, who of course is Walter White. But when Emilio meets Walter, he recognizes him. Walter tagged along with Hank, his brother-in-law, who's also a DEA cop, on the raid when Emilio was arrested, so he suggests they kill both Walter and Jesse just to be safe. Walter offers them a deal instead. He'll cook a batch of meth so pure it'll blow their minds. But what he actually cooks is phosphine gas. While Emilio and Crazy 8 are distracted, Walter causes a chemical explosion, traps them inside the RV, and runs. The gas fills the RV, and that's how Walter did his first kill in his iconic tighty whities. Then, Emilio's body gets dissolved in acid in Jesse's bathtub, except hydrofluoric acid eats not only through the body, but also through the bathtub and the floor. So instead of a clean disposal, Emilio ends up as a bloody puddle of goo dripping through Jesse's ceiling, which is gross, iconic, and memorable. Emilio's death is the moment the show drops all pretenses. It's not a midlife crisis story, it is the origin story of a criminal. It's the first time Walter White crosses a line he can't uncross. Crazy 8, a local meth distributor with a businessman's mentality. After helping Emilio confront Jesse and Walter, the whole RV phosphine gas incident goes down. The gas kills Emilio instantly, while Crazy 8 gets knocked out but barely survives. He tries to escape, but Jesse and Walter capture him and chain him up in Jesse's basement using a bike lock. Now, Walter has a serious problem. Crazy 8 is a live witness who knows his name, what he looks like, and where he works. Jesse and Walter flip a coin. Jesse gets body disposal duty, and Walter is supposed to kill Crazy 8. But Walter hesitates. He has a conversation with him, feeds him, and starts to see him as a person. For a moment, Walter even convinces himself he can let him go. That is, until he notices that a sharp, pointy piece of a plate Crazy 8 broke is missing. That's when it clicks. Crazy 8 is planning to kill him the second he's freed. So, Walter does what he has to do. He strangles Crazy 8 with the bike lock, and he doesn't stop until he's sure he's dead. This time, Walter didn't use chemicals. He took a human life with his own hands. It left him physically and emotionally shaken, but it also marked the true beginning of his moral decay. No Dose was one of Tuco Salamanca's men. You'll find him silently standing around, looking intimidating, and occasionally saying the wrong thing at the worst possible time, which led to his demise. Gonzo, also one of Tuco's men, he's quieter than No Dose and slightly more reasonable, served as Tuco's muscles. At a meth deal in a junkyard, after Walter and Jesse deliver their product, No Dose decides to remind Jesse and Walter that Tuco is the boss. Tuco, in classic Tuco fashion, interprets this as disrespect and beats No Dose into a bloody pulp for it, right in front of Walter and Jesse. Gonzo carries No Dose's limp body into Tuco's Escalade, and they drive off. But Tuco isn't done. Minutes later, Gonzo blocks Walter and Jesse's car and drags No Dose's barely alive body back out, yelling at Walter to save him. No Dose starts convulsing. Tuco screams at him for not knowing how to take a beating. Walter and Jesse are forced to do CPR, but it's too late. No Dose dies right there. Tuco orders Gonzo to hide the body, but later, Gonzo goes back to the junkyard to give No Dose a more respectful burial. While trying to move the body, a pile of scrap shifts, crushes Gonzo's arm, and he bleeds out. The DEA finds the bodies and Tuco's bloody fingerprint on No Dose's body, which leads them to tear apart his entire operation and round up his guys. These two deaths spark Tuco's downward spiral and eventually lead to his death. Tuco Salamanca was a volatile and violent drug kingpin, the first real threat Walt and Jesse ever faced in the meth world. Unpredictable, coked out, and dangerously easy to provoke. After discovering Walter's meth, Tuco became their first distributor. But his paranoia and violence escalated fast, from beating Jesse into a hospital bed, to murdering his own men, to kidnapping. Tuco abducts Walter and Jesse and takes them to a remote desert cabin with his beloved and paralyzed Uncle Hector, with the intention to flee to Mexico and force Walter and Jesse to cook meth 24/7 for the cartel. Trying to escape, Walter and Jesse try to poison him with ricin. It doesn't work. Hector catches on and rats them out with some furious bell ringing. Hector manages to communicate that Walter and Jesse are punking him, so he goes full Tuco again, screaming, flailing, waving guns, and beating Jesse. Jesse clocks him in the face with a rock. Tuco drops his rifle. Walter grabs it, tries to shoot, but can't get a clear shot. Tuco starts choking Jesse until Jesse reaches for Tuco's pistol and shoots him in the stomach. Tuco goes down. Walt and Jesse make their escape, but Tuco isn't dead yet. Minutes later, DEA agent Hank Schrader rolls up tracking Jesse's car. He sees Tuco stumble out, blood-soaked. Hank tries to de-escalate, but Tuco grabs the rifle and opens fire. They shoot on each other, and they run out of ammo. Tuco ducks behind Jesse's car trying to reload, but Hank's faster. Tuco pops up, and Hank shoots him dead with a bullet to the head. That single moment launches Hank's PTSD storyline and begins to shape his entire character arc. But that's a whole nother video. And with Tuco gone, Walter and Jesse are left without a distributor. But instead of backing out, they make a decision that changes everything. No more middlemen, no more bosses. Tuco's death cleared the playing field for the Heisenberg era. From now on, Walter doesn't work for anyone. Heisenberg runs the game. Spooge was a strung-out junkie with a big mouth and even bigger delusions of grandeur. He and his equally chaotic partner, a nameless woman Jesse will refer to as that skank. Together, they both rob Skinny Pete at knife point and steal an ounce of meth. Jesse tracks them down, gun in hand, ready to take back what was stolen or get paid for it. Jesse bursts into Spooge's trashed-out house to corner him, and all he sees is his little kid, barefoot and filthy. He starts watching TV and entertaining the kid, feeds him, and plays peekaboo with him until he finds the parents who stole his meth. Once Jesse hears Spooge and his wife's voices approaching, he asks the kid to stay in his room and asks him not to come out. He didn't want the kid to be traumatized by the intensity of what's about to go down. Jesse shuts the door on the kid and goes to confront the parents, and he finds them having a heated argument. He threatens them with a gun to shut up, then asks them for the money. Once the kid walks into the room, everything changes. Jesse lowers the gun. He can't yell or shoot with a child present. The mother uses her boy as a shield, dragging him close to her. Spooge tells Jesse he's got the money and then shows him a stolen ATM in the backyard of the house and starts talking about how he's gonna pay from the money inside the ATM, bragging about how the theft was a victimless crime, which wasn't true. Spooge actually stabbed a convenience store clerk during the robbery. As Spooge fails again and again to crack open the ATM, Jesse tries to talk sense into the mom about the kid. While Jesse is playing with the child, the mom hits him on the head and he loses consciousness. She takes his gun and points it at him and starts lashing out about how Jesse dared to call her a bad mother. Jesse wakes up to Spooge laying under the ATM to drill it open and exchanging insults with his wife. But Spooge throws one insult too many, so she tips the ATM over. It lands on his head, crushing his skull and killing him instantly. The wife barely reacts. She calmly goes and curls up on the couch and passes out like nothing happened. Jesse's in shock. He wipes his prints off the ATM. While doing so, it opens and money shoots out of it. He calls 911, wraps the kid in a blanket, walks him outside, making sure the kid will be found, and tells him to close his eyes like they're playing peekaboo. And then, Jesse wishes the boy a good rest of his life before he leaves him for the police to find him. And that's the moment that sticks with Jesse and with us forever. Combo Ortega was one of Jesse's oldest and closest friends, a laid-back guy with a big heart, bad judgment, and worse luck. By season 2, Combo is part of Jesse's crew, along with Skinny Pete and Badger, pushing meth for Heisenberg. One day, while selling meth on a street corner that was part of a rival drug gang's territory, Combo gets killed right there in broad daylight. A kid, 11 years old, walks up to him and pulls a gun. Combo doesn't even have time to react. The kid shoots him point blank. Combo stumbles into the street, bleeding, trying to escape, but collapses right there on the pavement. And just like that, he's gone. It's a brutal, senseless death, one that Jesse never really recovers from. At first, Jesse doesn't know the whole story, but later, through Andrea Cantillo, he learns the truth. The kid who shot Combo was Andrea's little brother, Tomas. He was recruited by the same gang that Gus Fring used to move products, and they used kids as killers. That knowledge shatters Jesse. Combo's death becomes one of the deepest cuts in Jesse's arc. It sends him spiraling deeper into addiction and eventually leads to the loss of his girlfriend, Jane Margolis. Jane Margolis was Jesse's landlord, his neighbor, then his girlfriend, and in many ways, his mirror. A recovering addict, a gifted artist, sharp, independent, and just as lost as Jesse was. When she first meets him, she makes it clear, no funny business, but they fall fast and hard. And it's not long before she's not just in his life, she's in his addiction. After Combo's death, Jesse spirals, and Jane, who had been clean for over a year, spirals with him. She introduces Jesse to heroin, and everything goes off the rails from there. Walter notices that Jesse is using, so he refuses to pay Jesse until he gets clean. That's when Jane flips. She blackmails Walter. Tell him if he doesn't give Jesse his money, she'll burn everything down, and threaten telling his DEA brother-in-law about everything. Walter gives in. Jesse gets his cut. Jane makes plans for both of them to disappear, get clean, run away, and start over. But that's not what happens. That night, Walt comes back to Jesse's place, hoping to talk and fix things. Instead, he finds them passed out in bed, high. That's when Jane rolls onto her back and begins to vomit. Walter runs to help, but stops and watches her die. He lets it happen and tells himself it's for Jesse's own good. The next morning, Jesse wakes up to find Jane dead beside him. He calls Walter, who calls in Mike to clean the scene. And Jesse never recovers from this. Man, Jesse really can't catch a break. Jane's death was a tipping point for everyone. Jesse falls deeper into depression and addiction. Walt sinks further into guilt and whatever he's going to end up being. And Donald Margolis, Jane's father, who's an air traffic controller, his brain goes into a fog of grief so deep, he lets two planes collide in midair over Albuquerque, which leads to a 167 innocent people's death. And it all tracks back to Walter Hartwell White Sr. Or does it? Let us know in the comments, would blame Walter?